Want to know how to make a nuclear bomb? I'm about to tell you, but first, we're about to focus on a topic that I know turns you on. Philosophy. Specifically, the philosophy of human destruction. To do that, we have to go back in time. Way back in time. The biblical gospel that refers to the Trinity was predated by the Bhagavad Gita by over 400 years. Vishnu, one of the principal deities of Hinduism, is the supreme being of the Trinity that is accompanied by Brahma and Shiva. Vishnu made himself into a man, much like the story of Christ being the incarnation of God the Father. This corporeal God form was known by the name that even Westerners like you might recognize: Krishna. It even sounds a little bit like Christ, doesn't it? Like Krishna. He came to help Arjuna, who is the protagonist of the ancient Indian epic Mahabharata, and plays a key role in the Bhagavad Gita alongside Krishna. Arjuna is faced with the difficult task of leading his army to war with his enemies that are his own kin. He has no interest in hurting people from his own family and tells Krishna that he will not fight. This story is analogous to all forms of war, even modern ones, wherein humanity is one and all battle is between the human race, brother versus brother, as it were. Krishna provides Arjuna with multiple bits of wisdom, such as our own minds act as an enemy if we don't control it. It is better to perform one's own duties imperfectly than to master another's perfectly. Keep doing your work without thought of the result. Doing so is the secret to peace. Much like Christ's teachings, he instructed Arjuna, do what you love, and to give unto others without expectation of return. He also taught him the very difficult message that what you own today will be owned by someone else tomorrow, so you must learn the art of letting go. To live life in balance, don't oversleep, don't undersleep, don't overeat, don't undereat. Maintain harmony with everything in your life. And finally, the quintessential lesson facing Arjuna as the dust was accumulating from the armies preparing for war, Krishna said, nothing is permanent in the universe. Whatever has come to life will eventually suffer death. So don't mourn for the ones who have left, because death is the ultimate reality of life. Krishna then told him that these people will die regardless of Arjuna's involvement, and that Arjuna was only a tool to Krishna's goal. Reading from Bhagavad Gita 342. Let's see here. The senses are higher than the body, the mind higher than the senses. Above the mind is reason. On this Right to Reason, we're going to be talking about the fiercest technology that man has ever designed to please Krishna and Shiva, the final emancipator, death itself. This Right to Reason is going nuclear right now. Arjuna didn't accept Krishna's challenge, so Krishna showed him his true form as Vishnu. This is the common image that you're familiar with of the blue effeminate guy with lots of arms all over the place. Standing before Arjuna as a great ferocious being, Vishnu then says this, "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." Flash forward to July 16, 1945. Robert Oppenheimer is a renowned scientist and friend of Albert Einstein, believe it or not. He is working on the Manhattan Project and administrating the Trinity test in New Mexico, the site of the creation of the nuclear bomb. But what is a nuclear bomb made of? How do you make one? Well, here it is.
To re-emphasize the submicroscopic nature of our subject, if we could increase the size of the nucleus proton to that of a golf ball, the route of the electron would be about a mile away. Different forms of the same element, with different weights but carrying the same electrical charges and having identical chemical behavior.
All right, let's simplify this. All you need to do is take nuclear material, surround it by something as simple as TNT, and then encase all that in some kind of a container. Not that hard. Just don't tell anyone I told you that.
The general ideas of how a nuclear weapon works, how to build a nuclear weapon, are out in the open literature, on the internet, various places. The details of how to make a nuclear weapon work are not necessarily there.
The problem is making the nuclear material. Things get kind of complicated right around there.
It employs a series of gas centrifuges and produces the same result for 1/20th of the energy costs. A centrifuge is a cylinder filled with uranium gas, spinning at 90,000 RPMs. This forces the heavier atoms to the outside of the cylinder. Only 7 uranium atoms in 1,000 are the lighter weight uranium-235, which remain on the inside.
In an interview from 1965, Oppenheimer describes the initial reactions as the fruit of his labors. The very first nuclear bomb detonated early in the morning of July 16, 1945.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
On May 7, 1945, Germany signed an unconditional surrender at Allied headquarters in France to take effect the following day, ending the European conflict of World War II. Japan entered into negotiations of surrender 4 years before that with the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, after the United States dropped the first bomb on Hiroshima, declared war on Japan and attacked. Then, 3 days later, the United States dropped another bomb on Nagasaki. If Japan was already willing to surrender and Russia had already invaded, why did the United States continue their powerful display of nuclear arsenal? How was this the result, as the textbooks taught you, of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor that happened 4 years before this? Why have you been provided this narrative if it doesn't add up? Now you're asking the right questions. We'll get to that in another topic. Between now and then, let's take a final lesson from the Bhagavad Gita presented to us by our favorite religious philosopher, Alan Watts.
He who knows that it is indestructible and eternal, uncreated and unchanging, how can such a person slay anyone, O Arjuna, or cause anyone to slay? Just as a person casts off worn-out garments and puts on others that are new, even so does the embodied soul cast off worn-out bodies and take on others that are new. Weapons do not cleave this self. Fire does not burn him. Waters do not make him wet, nor does the wind make him dry. He is uncleavable, he cannot be burned. He can neither be wetted nor dried. He is eternal, all-pervading, unchanging and immovable. He is the same forever. He is said to be manifest, unmanifest, unthinkable, and unchanging. Therefore, knowing him as such, thou shouldst not grieve. Even if thou thinkest that the self is perpetually born and perpetually dies, even then, O mighty armed, thou shouldst not grieve. For to the one that is born, death is certain, and certain is birth for the one that has died. Therefore, for what is unavoidable, thou shouldst not grieve.
Perhaps the concept of the soul, of paradise, of life after this one, is the true root of our ability to inflict suffering on our fellow man. Maybe without these dreams of the afterlife, we wouldn't treat our current life and the lives of others with such disdain and apathy. Perhaps our impressive human abilities of technology could be utilized to help those that are weaker than us, rather than blowing someone up based on lines drawn in the earth. Earth. Dirt. Dirt that no matter where we come from, what our color, sexuality, or even religion, we all stand on together. Let's work to remove these lines of division and put the religious dogma of the Bronze Age where it belongs. Not in modern political policy, but in the history books to learn from, and let's try to remember the Bhagavad Gita's timeless message that reason is our only path to something greater than ourselves. Hi, If you smell what I was cooking, you might want to subscribe to the Right to Reason YouTube channel. You should probably hear the entirety of this show on iTunes and Stitcher. This is only a small video excerpt from the actual broadcast. The Right to Reason is a podcast, not a vlog. You might also want to support our message on patreon.com/right. Share this with your friends on Facebook and Twitter, and learn more at therighttoreason.com.